In this lecture, I will explain you about interpreter and compiler. Interpreter and compiler are used for translating our programs into machine code and also getting them executed. So they are nothing but translators. Before explaining about interpreter and compiler, I will take a real life example which will be more similar to interpreter and compiler. Let us talk about example. See, in daily life, we see translation is done from one language to another language. So there are two methods of translation. For example, if you have a letter or some text in Hindi language, this is Hindi language text, and you want to translate this one into English. There are two methods of translation, two approach for translation. Now suppose I am translator and you have this Hindi text and you want me to translate in English, then I have two choices or two approaches. Let us see the first one. What I am doing, observe it carefully. I will read it. इस कोर्स में आपका स्वागत है. Welcome to this course. See, the moment I finish first line, I translated it in English. जावा प्रोग्रामिंग में महारत हासिल करने के लिए आपको अधिक से अधिक अभ्यास की आवश्यकता है. To master in programming in Java, you have to practice more and more. So I have translated in English. That's it. So this is over. I have finished translation. Now let us look at the next one. You gave me this Hindi text and I am translating it. See what I am doing. I have written English translation for this Hindi text. I am not reading it out and explaining it to you. I am just translating it. So for a Hindi text, I am generating equivalent English text. Right? I am generating English text. Here I have not written anything. I have not produced anything. Just I translated sentence by sentence and explain you. Okay, there was no need of explanation, so assume that I have explained you. Line by line, I just read it and I translated it for you. But here, I am not translating line by line for you. I have translated line by line, but I have written a separate file. This is what the difference between interpreter and compiler. So now observe the differences. What I have demonstrated, based on that, let us see the differences. See, it will read each line and also it will translate. So it will read a line and then translate, read a line and then translate. But it will just speak out the translation part. But whereas the compiler, he will not tell you the translation. He will prepare a translation file, a separate file, separate text. He will prepare separate text. This is one difference. Second thing, if suppose tomorrow you want to again read this, you don't know Hindi, again you want to read it, then you have to come to me. I will again translate and read it out and give this letter back to you. But here in case of compiler, I have translated it. I have given you an English version of it. You don't need me again. If you want to read it any number of times, you can read this English text and understand what is there in Hindi text. So you don't need me again, you need me only one time, whereas interpreter, whenever you want to read this text, you need me every time. You will bring that text to me, I will read it and translate and just speak out. I will not write down that separate text. This was the second difference. Now observe the third difference. Suppose there is a spelling mistake here, right? There is a spelling mistake here. As an interpreter, I will read the first line and I speak out the translation. Next line, I will speak out the translation. Next, I will speak out the translation. And I will stop here because I cannot read it and understand what is it. So till here, I have worked successfully. And from the point where there is an error, from there, I cannot continue further. But whereas compiler, if there is a spelling mistake or some mistake here, I will not write down a translated version. I will say that first you get it corrected, then only I can write down the translation version. Otherwise, this copy will be wrong. This will be wrong. I cannot write anything wrong contents in the translation part. You must get this corrected, then only I will do this one. Right? This is the next difference. So I have highlighted few differences. Now the same differences you will find them in between compiler and interpreter used in languages. So let us quickly look at the things that I have explained you. See, compiler will generate a separate file, interpreter will not generate a separate file. Interpreter is always required, compiler is required only once, only one time translation is done. If there is a problem in the text, interpreter can continue up to that point, whereas compiler cannot do anything until that problem is solved, that error is removed. That same thing happens in programming languages also. Let us look at the example. There are many programming languages like C, C++ programming language, and the JavaScript. JavaScript is a language, right? So this is a script language. Now, these languages are compiler based. They can never be interpreter languages. So when a language is designed, it is designed either an interpreted language or a compiled language. That is the nature of a language. So C, C++ languages are compiler based languages, whereas JavaScript is a interpreted language. And who is the interpreter for this JavaScript? Browser is a interpreter. But whereas Java is a hybrid language. It is compiled as well as interpreted. So languages by nature are either interpreted or compiled, or they are hybrid. Like Java is hybrid language. You can say it is having both, so hybrid language. Now let us understand interpreter and compiler. So here I have an example of JavaScript, which is an interpreted language. Here I have an example of Java, which is hybrid, so it is compiled as well as interpreted. So I am taking an example of Java, so compiler part. Let us understand how they differ. Let us first observe what an interpreter will do. Who is an interpreter for JavaScript? Browser is an interpreter. Okay, browser is an interpreter. Now listen, I am showing you, demonstrating how interpreter works. Declare a variable and initialize 10 to it. So it will convert into machine code, and a variable will be created and it will be having value 10. That time only, the same moment. Variable b is created and the value is assigned. So the machine code is generated for this and also executed. Then machine code is generated for this and executed. Machine code is generated for this and executed. For every line, machine code is generated and executed. Script ends here. If you want to run the script again, then again conversion into machine code execution, and conversion and execution, conversion, execution, conversion. Two things happen every time, conversion and execution every time. So that's what translation into machine code as well as execution is done simultaneously in case of interpreters. But what about compiler? Compiler will read this one and this one and this one, and once it doesn't find any error, then for each line it will generate the machine code. Like if it is, as it is in Java, you can say this is bytecode, or let us assume that this is C++. Okay, so this is machine code. Okay, don't look at the code. This is C out. Assume that this is C out. So it will generate machine code. Okay, so this program will get converted into machine code. Suppose this is a file that is first.cpp. Suppose this is first.cpp and this becomes first.exe. Now how many times translation is done? Only one time. You need compiler only once, and there is a separate file generated. Here file is not generated. Separate file is not generated. Just now I gave you the example of Hindi text to English text. So same thing. Separate file is not generated, file is generated, right? Line by line translation as well as execution. See, if you ask anybody, they say line by line execution. They just say execution. But line by line translation as well as execution. Here also translation is done line by line only. Line by line only. But if there is no error, then the entire code is converted into machine code, and then execution can be done as many times as you want without the need of a compiler. But here always interpreter is required. Always interpreter is required. Next, if there is an error here, then up to here it will finish. Suppose there is a next line and there is some error here and it will not execute. Up till here it will execute. But here, if there is any error at any line, then program will not compile. Now, conclusion. Who is better? Interpreter or compiler? That's what we are interested now. See, interpreter will translate so many times. If you run it for 100 times, 100 time translation is done. So it's a waste of time. Compiler, translation is done only once. Oh, this is better. Then coming to interpreter, whenever you run your program, interpreter will also run. Without running interpreter, your program cannot run. You always need a interpreter. You don't need a compiler every time. So who is slow? Interpreter is slower than compiler. So compiler is faster, interpreter is slower because it always translates and execute, and two things will be running, your program and interpreter. But compiler is never executed along with the program. It translates, that's all, its job is over. Now you take care of your program, you run it as many times as you want. Then lastly, which type of languages are easy for developing programs? Interpreted languages. Suppose you have to write 10 lines. Okay. Now you can write first line and check it executing perfectly, second, third, fourth, fifth. And out of 10 lines, if there is a problem in ninth line, right, it will execute till here and there is an error here. So up to here you can see its execution. So it's easy to remove such errors. But whereas compiler, you write 100 lines, then you may get 100 errors. So there are, depending on the language, I'm not just talking about Java, depending on the language, you may get so many errors. So it's very difficult or confusing to learn about those errors and learn them and remove them. So learning of compiled languages takes time and development also takes time, whereas interpreted languages are easy to learn, right? But they are slower. Compiled languages are faster, but they are little difficult to learn. So that's all. These are the differences between interpreted languages and compiled languages. So lastly, let us look at how Java works, whether it is interpreted language or compiled language. See, Java programs are compiled and it will not generate machine code, they generate byte code. So this is compiler. Then this byte code is interpreted by JVM, Java Virtual Machine. So this is a interpreter of Java. So whenever you want to run Java program, you have to say Java, if the program file name is first, then class file name is first, then you have to say first. What is this? There's nothing but interpreter. You are asking a JVM, that is interpreter, to execute the program. So this interpreter will execute the program. Your program cannot run independently. So when you are running your program, JVM is also running. So two programs are running. So JVM is slower. Yes, because it is having interpreter. So in the next video, we will learn more about this one. So that's all. Java is a hybrid language. So it is compiled as well as interpreted, right? See, compiler is generating a separate file. Interpreter is not generating any file. It is just converting into machine code and getting executed. So that's all in this video. So don't miss next video.